This happens to be an apple corer, and you set your apple on a cutting board and you put this down the middle of your apple and you push it down and twist and pull it up, and then you push this out and it pushes the core out. So then you have just a nice apple with the core gone. So that works very nice. This is another little pancake turner, or some people call them spatulas. It's a tiny little one, and it's a very handy thing to have. And we have the rolling pin. This is one you're going to get used to using because you're going to use it several times. And I always put a stocking on my rolling pin, because what I can do then is work flour into the stocking cover, and the pie dough or whatever you're making doesn't stick to it so much. So that's a stocking that cover. And we do not have any of those in our labs. A funnel. You never know when you're going to need a funnel. Okay, I was mentioning about a different kind of can opener. Most can openers, when they cut around the top. And this one happens to cut in between the top and the bottom of the rest of the can. So it sits on top like this, and I'm just going to move it around. And what it's doing is cutting right in between this lip here. It's cutting it in half. And this really keeps things, like if there's any contamination on the top of the can, keeps it out of the food, and that's a really important thing. Okay, and then there's a little part of this that we can just pick up the lid like that, and so there's never any sharp edges. This is not sharp because it's cut on the right on the banding part, and that's just I think it's a very safe way of opening a can, and a very sanitary way. I have a few other tools that I want to show you. This is a strainer, and I strain pasta in this one. This one is called a colander. You can drain all kinds. You can drain vegetables in it, fruits in it. You can drain pasta in it. It's pretty versatile, so I have a couple of those. This just happens to be a really nifty way of cooking vegetables in the microwave. It's a microwave container, and it's got holes on both sides so that you can easily drain any liquid off. And it's nice for smaller amounts. You can't do a lot in that one. I have a couple of different things to use to take food out of the oven when it's hot. These are silicone pads, and they're very flexible, and you can use that to pull things out of the oven. You always have to be very careful so you don't burn yourself. This is another one. You can reach in the oven, press down, and you can pull this out of the oven. Pretty nifty little thing, and it holds quite a bit. And then we have different sizes and different kinds of cake pans, cooking pans. This happens to be a 9-inch square. Good for brownies. Brownies tend to like corners better, so this is for corners. And you can also bake cakes in that if you like square cakes. This is a round one. This has a coating on it called Baker's Secret. You have to be real careful with this kind of coating because you don't want to cut through it, because it will cut and scratch, and then you lose the non-stick part of it. So this happens to be an 8-inch one, and this is a 9-inch cake pan. And different recipes, some of them call for 8-inch, some call for 9-inch, so you need to be checking your recipes so you know which size pan you want to use for that. These are muffin pans or cupcake pans, and I always like to use cupcake papers. It just makes cleanup better, easier, especially if you're making muffins or cupcakes. These are for tiny little ones, or those little pecan tarts, those little tiny tarts. I use this primarily at Christmas time, but they also make neat little muffin things too. And you can get little muffin cups that fit in this. This is a springform pan. If you make cheesecakes, this has two different bottoms. This one is more for a bundt cake, and then there's just a plain glass bottom that goes in it for a cheesecake. But what you do, the reason it's called a springform is it has a spring, and then this can come out and you can take your food out, turn it upside down. But it's a nice pan, and this one is also coated with non-stick, so the cake in this would not stick. It comes out pretty easily. I like to bake in glass pie plates. I think the crusts look better when they come out that way, so I have, probably, I don't know, 8 or 9 of these different kinds of pie plates. These are pretty old. I guess they would be considered antiques now. And this one is an 8-inch one, and some recipes are 9-inch, but that's a pie plate. And they go up to 10, 12 inches. Sometimes you'll hear me refer to stoneware. This is a baking stone. This happens to be a jelly roll pan, kind of a medium size, but I use this a lot. It's great for conducting heat. And you put this in the oven when the oven is heating up so that the stone gets as hot as the oven. Very even heat, very quick heating. One of the things you need is a cutting board. I have several. One cutting board is reserved for meats because you don't want to mix them, meats and vegetables or meats and anything else, just for cross-contamination purposes. And I like the acrylic better than wood because I don't feel you can get the wood as clean as you can these acrylics. So that's just a cutting board. This is a wire cooling rack. It has legs so the air can circulate around it. Small squares, small wire squares, so that the food doesn't fall through, and it can cool down very quickly. So it's a real handy thing to have. Easy to store this way. I showed you an apple core. This is an apple slicer core, and you can slice apples and take the core out at the same time. And it's got some nice handles on it, and it's very easy to hold and nice and easy to push down on that apple. And of course you would do it on a cutting board. This happens to be a ice cream scoop, and it warms by the heat of your hand. So just holding it, there's a special liquid in here, and the heat of your hand warms it up, takes it so that you don't have to put it in hot water or anything. And you know, when you have really hard ice cream that you're trying to scoop out, this is already just warm enough so that the ice cream comes out much easier. This does not go in a dishwasher. You have to be real careful not to get that too hot because it will explode all over everything. I have some different kinds of knives. If you're a professional cook, you have very expensive knives. I don't. This one is a bread knife, and it has serrated edges. And this, so when you cut bread, you cut in a sawing motion, and it doesn't smash the bread down. This is also a bread knife, just a little bit different. They do the same thing, but they're just a couple different companies. This one is this one is for tomatoes. And I find this has been a great one. Tomatoes are hard to cut. And this will cut through that skin, the outer skin, and it'll cut nice thin slices of tomatoes without smashing them and getting juice all over the place. And then the knife you can't live without, it's a paring knife, P-A-R-I-N-G, and it's a small knife, and you cut everything with this. You clean vegetables, you clean fruits, you slice, you dice, you do all kinds of stuff with a paring knife. Very, very important one to have. To keep your knives sharp, you don't put them in the dishwasher. You take very good care of them. My neighbor girl went to chef's school, and she probably spent $500 or $600 on her knife set, and it goes with her wherever she's working. That's her knife set. She doesn't use theirs, and she doesn't leave hers. There are several kinds of cookware. This happens to be a coated cookware, and it's very heavy. It conducts heat nicely, and so when you have cookware like this, you always need to use not plastic or non-metal type of pancake turner. That's what this is a pancake turner. So this is just a couple different kinds. This is a big casserole one, a nice size one. And then the other part of this is if you're cooking and you're frying meat or something like that, you want to put this spatter guard so you don't get grease flying all over the place. And it keeps all of that in there, and it's a really nice way to prevent you getting burned and making a mess. So that's called a spatter guard. The other kind of cookware, and this, the lids fit into this so nicely, but this is waterless cookware. It's a pretty nice set that I have, and it's very heavy, conducts heat really well, and you don't have to use much liquid at all. It takes care of itself. So, and I like it because it stores nicely. The lids fit inside, and it looks very nice in there. The other part of this is a knife block. We have some in our kitchens, but they're not really expensive knives. This happens to be a French chef's knife, and if you watch any cooking show, they do a lot with this knife. They do a lot of chopping, and they make this knife rock. And some of the demos that we'll do and some of the things you'll practice will use that. And knives come in different, some are for meat, some are for cold cuts. Like I said, this is not an expensive set of knives. This is fairly cheap. So here's another paring knife. They all have different purposes. And I think what you find in our kitchens is basically just very basic knives. The French chef's knife. But I do keep them separate. I don't want them in a drawer because they get dull by doing that. Okay.